Mail-in voting sounds great, but did you know that if you vote by mail, your personal information will be part of a public database that will be used by police departments to track down old warrants and be used by credit card companies to collect out? The CDC is even pushing to use records for mail-in voting to track people for mandatory vaccines. Don't be finessed into giving your private information to the man. Stay safe and beware of vote by mail.
Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. I know firsthand what it feels like to be suppressed, specifically regarding the political process. I can't vote. I won't be able to vote till long after the election is done and over with. So I tend to empathize with people that are being suppressed as well. Mainly, in this case right here, people of color. People of every ethnicity outside of being white, namely the African-American community. They seem to be a popular target in suppressing the vote. Now, it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. This really does happen. It really happens this way, right? People fear the vote of other people of color because they feel that they're going to vote against whatever political system that they have put into place or the system that they believe in. But that ain't always the case. You don't know how somebody's going to vote. Just because somebody's black doesn't mean they're necessarily going to vote for Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or anybody. They might surprise you and vote for Trump. I know a lot of black people that are going to be voting for Trump. But when you set up a system and you try to scare people based upon their circumstances, I find that to be quite cowardice. Mainly this Robo Call thing. I don't know if you heard about it. It happened in the Detroit area. Somebody sent out a whole bunch of Robo Calls targeting people in the African American community because white people weren't getting these calls. It was mainly African Americans that were counted in the census. Now, how they got the information from the census, who fucking knows, or if that's how they got it. Nonetheless, these calls went out and targeted African Americans in the Detroit area. Basically, what the robocalls were saying was that if you mail in your vote, you're going to be subject to possible ramifications by the law, repercussions. The cops are going to come and arrest you if you have a warrant. Or if you owe any kind of child support, you're going to be hit. Credit bureaus might find out where you're at. All these different things. They even went so far to say that you may be forced vaccinated as well. I don't really know how most people in the African American community feel about vaccinations. I mean, I have my own thoughts on them. Depends on what the vaccination is. I don't know how they feel about it. I guess I would have to ask somebody. But why would that even be an issue? But these calls were put out. I mean, no question that they were done. I heard them. I heard the robocall itself, and it's pretty fucked up. And it sounded like, and I'm not trying to stereotype by the sound of somebody's voice, but it sounded like they were even using an African-American woman to do this. The way that she was talking certain things, that your information will be shared to the man, right? Using those sound bites, the little catchphrases and stuff to get their attention. The one thing that actually kind of blows my mind about this is why would it be an issue with mail-in voting? I mean, why not when somebody shows up at the polling station, why wouldn't they be ran? Why wouldn't their name be ran through a database there? I don't know. Like last time I voted, I was 18 years old, and I haven't voted since. All right, so it's quite a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, if you don't find this to be kind of disturbing, then I don't know where you stand. A lot of people always try to speculate on where I stand. People have said I'm on the right, I'm a Trump supporter. One guy said I was a Republican. I don't know how many fucking times I got to tell you that I'm a libertarian, that I'm not a Republican, that I don't vote Republican, never voted Republican. I haven't voted Democrat either. The one and only time I ever voted, I voted for H. Ross Perot, and he was an independent. All right, so that should pretty much tell you what it is with me. I don't like any of the bullshit that's on each side. Just because I've chosen to single out a lot of this rhetoric and BS on the left doesn't mean that I ain't going to single out the shit on the right either. In this case right here on the right, you got a guy's name is Jack Berkman and another guy's name is Jacob Wall. Now, they have been known to do these kind of things over and over and over again. Right-wing tinfoil hat people that target specifically people of color in all their doings, wheelings, and dealings, shenanigans, whatever you want to call it. The thing about it is when people try to tell me that I'm on the right or try to convince me that I'm on the right, they know nothing about me, you would know right off the rip that I don't side with any of that bullshit on the right or on the left. You know what I mean? Because both sides have a negative impact upon my life. Both sides do. On the left, it's with all the white privilege and the race guilt and all that other bullshit that they run me through. Again, don't know a fucking lick about what they're talking about when it comes to me. Just because the skin color is like that doesn't mean that I have anything like that or have I benefited from that in any way, shape, or form. Actually, quite the contrary on it. But on the right, here's my issue with them. They look at me as a scumbag. They look at me as a lowlife and a loser, right? Both sides, left and right, never want to see me ever own a firearm ever again. You got people that are on the left that would love to see me vote. Why? Because I'll vote for the candidates they like. You know what I mean? If they knew that I would never vote for their candidates, they probably would be on the same train as the right in suppressing my vote. But then again, on both sides, neither one of them would ever allow me to run for president because they've made laws to prevent me from doing so. My issue with a lot of people on the right is their negative outlook towards people who have broken the law. They don't believe in any kind of redemption whatsoever. I mean, I could tell you about a judge that I've dealt with who's a teabagger, conservative, and all that other bullshit that will want to see me go on every last drop of a prison sentence and my probation. It doesn't matter what I've done. I could literally design a cure for cancer. I can rescue a whole busload of kids that are drowning in a river. I could do all of these things. I could prevent a meteorite from crashing into Washington, D.C., and they'll still look at me as a low-life scumbag criminal. White trash, all that stuff. It's one of the main reasons why I can't get on board with, like, QAnon, because they look at me as I'm a scumbag criminal. I'm one of those kind of people that I stay firmly balanced in the middle, and I call the bullshit out on both sides. And this one right here, I have to call it out as being just straight bullshit. And especially being the people that are involved as Berkman and Wall, I know all about them. I've seen several different things that they've done. You know, it's just like, it's crazy how both of these sides have gone through such great lengths to fuck with the next side. And somebody like me just sits here and looks at it all like, damn, man. And I'm the one that always gets shot at by both sides. It's nuts. I can't speak on anything without this side fucking with me or this side fucking with me. But this one right here is just flat out wrong, and it's racist. I mean, it is racist. You're targeting black people, and you automatically assume that every single one of them has a warrant, every single one of them owes child support, and they all don't want to be vaccinated, and they probably are all in debt. You don't know what the fuck the situation is with these people, and you don't know how they're going to vote. That's the thing. I don't agree or believe in suppressing the vote in any way, shape, or form. I believe that every adult who is a citizen of this country should be allowed to vote. Simple as that. If you're going to charge me taxes, then you should be letting me vote. It's as simple as that. But you got both sides that want to prevent me from speaking out and voting. And anytime I have something to say about any of this stuff like that, I'm going to get attacked by either side. You know, if this doesn't tell you by now where I'm at, then I don't know what will convince you. Because I'm not going to get out on a picket line or a protest line with either side, because I don't agree with what either side is doing. But what I don't like is how both sides are using the common people, your everyday average Joe and Jane, to further their agendas every single time. With all these fear tactics and fear-mongering and fake news and all this bullshit that's out there, it just really just, man, gets under my skin. I mean, anybody that has any kind of, like, half-assed common sense or respect for the next person that lives here should finally take a stand and just completely tell all these people that you're out of your fucking minds with everything that you're doing. I mean, it's like you got so many different people on both sides. They're holding each other's dicks in trying to further this civil war that they got going on. But the main thing with these robocalls is why target mail-in voting? Why not target the whole voting system? That's the one that really, like, I'm trying to wrap my brain around why it's so important to target mail-in voting. I would be willing to agree that there's probably a lot of problems with mail-in voting, but this right here is not something that anybody should be pushing. You should basically more be concerned with the fact that somebody can get a mail-in ballot and then walk in and vote again. I mean, I'd be pushing that one right there. Not to say that anybody in anybody's community, I don't care if you're a person of color or not, should be suspected of doing that, or even or somebody trying to convince somebody that they would actually do that. First off, if somebody's voting by mail, more than likely most of the people are doing it because they're scared to death of this fucking COVID. So they're not going to go into the polling station because of that. But the funny thing about those people is that they won't go into a Walmart, or they'll go into a Walmart, but they won't go to a polling station. Put a freaking mask on. That's just my take on it. But this shit right here has to stop. At some point in time, we need to be done with all of this weirdness. You know, all of these robocalls and shit. I haven't gotten any kind of robocalls for anything. But I did have a pollster call me one time and convince me that I needed to vote for Joe Biden. I don't know how that's a fair poll, and maybe the reason why some of these polls are so lopsided, but yet the people, if you ask them, aren't really on that same time when it comes to the polling. But yes, the system in general, like people that are on the right, need to stop targeting African Americans and all these fear tactics. At the same time, the people on the left need to stop doing it as well. I mean, you got these poor people in the middle that are being hit from both sides, don't know what the fuck to believe. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't even know if I'm even alive, man, if I'm not in the Twilight Zone. But yeah, this shit's crazy, man. Check it out. If you don't believe me, check into it. It's quite entertaining to really see a lot of this stuff that's going on. I've been getting so many of these different shots that people are taking at each other, and it's just like a straight Cold War of psychology. And somebody like me has to laugh and shake his head at all of it. But I just thought I would share it with you. Story that I just read. Somebody shared it with me on my DM on Instagram. And I'm never on board with any of that stuff like that. I think that the African American community could use a good break from both sides at this point in time. I mean, really a break from the rhetoric on both sides, and especially this kind of shit has to stop. All these other means of suppressing the vote, with all the tax dollars we pay these people, if somebody lives out in the middle of nowhere or lives in an area where there's no polling station, the government should be providing public transportation so that people can get from point A to point B, cast their ballot, and get their ass back home and do whatever it is they got to do for the rest of the day. But don't suppress the vote. I mean, that right there is just, all it does is just add another log to the fire that we're trying to just extinguish at this point. Just my 2 cents on all this. You already know what it is, and you heard it right here. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, non-sugarcoat, non-politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality. And I'm out.